Oh, man. Well, this summer probably didn't go as well as planned. First, the slasher summer house, then the Madman in the woods. Now we are camping out here. Oh, wait a minute. Look, there's a sign. Camp Madness Lake?
Yeah, I don't know about this, Kev. This place has a real death curse kind of feel to it.
It literally says Camp Madness Lake on the sign.
Man, I don't feel good about this.
No, guys, come on. Look at this place. Let's fix this up. We can turn this into such a great camp. What do you guys think?
Let's do it!
So you are afraid of something.
Welcome to the madness.
We are the Mouths of Madness, your new favorite podcast for horror movie reviews. We're coming to you live tonight from Camp Madness Lake. This is our episode 19 on the 1980 Friday the 13th. My name is Kevin, and welcome to Camp Madness Lake, where we have the craziest camp just for you. Let me go around and introduce you to the counselors. We have Dan in botany.
Don't eat that mushroom. Lick that toad.
Yes. Next, we got Bearclaw. He's head archery.
See, it's all about form when you pull back. You just have to really...
Oh,
sorry about that. Walk it off. Just walk it off. Okay, I gotta go.
that might have hurt. And finally, we have the youngest counselor. It's the counselor in training, Logan, and he's in arts and crafts.
Yeah, come make a wallet out of pubic hair.
Wow, that sounds so fun. Come join us here at Camp Madness Lake. I know that there are a lot of other great horror movie podcasts out there, but what separates us from the other ones is that we're going to be giving you the older versus younger generation perspective. Myself, Dan, and Bearclaw, we're the old counselors here, while my son Logan, he's the counselor in training. So this is the clash of the generations. Now, before we get in the episode, I want to plug some of our stuff and where to find us. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to us on your favorite audio platform or YouTube. Please leave a comment and let everyone know why you've descended into the madness. Please rate our show 5 stars if you'd be so kind. You can find us on Instagram at mouths.of.madness. We have a great YouTube channel, and that's at Mouths of Madness. We just did a new straitjacket talk episode on the movie Eraserhead, so please go check that out. Finally, we have our email address. Email Bearclaw at thepaddedroom@outlook.com and let him know if you've ever been to a camp and done some archery.
Yeah, I mean, let me know if you've been able to, hit the target and what kind of things you did at summer camp.
I know, I never did.
Yeah, that'll be fun to hear. Now it's time to embrace the madness and let everyone know what we've been up to. Well, like I said, we just did a straitjacket talk review on the movie Eraserhead, so I watched Eraserhead by David Lynch for the first time ever. It's a ride.
Yeah, I was gonna say that movie is a whole conversation.
Yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna say this right now because I think you should all take the ride. Go watch that movie and let me know what you think. Email us at thepaddedroom@outlook.com.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what's your interpretation of that.
Yeah, because I do think it is kind of like a abstract piece of art.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of sees something different, and I would like to hear your take on it. That's what I've been up to. How about you, Dan?
I've recently been getting back into the game of chess. I've been trying to play like a game a day on chess.com. It's a wonderful place for chess players to learn or improve and compete with each other. So yeah, I've been doing that. Also been feeling a little nostalgic for Mario games. I dusted off the Nintendo Switch and dove into Mario Maker 2. I had the game for a couple years now, and I didn't realize there was actually like a story mode where you could play through levels. You didn't have to like build levels or go and do other people's levels, which you need an online subscription for. So
Always.
like you don't have access to half the game, so that kind of sucks. So at least I was able to figure out there was a story mode, so I was able to get that Mario fix in. So that was cool.
Nice.
Saw Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
Oh, what'd you think?
Pretty good.
We went
Pretty
and
good.
saw that. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was pretty excellent.
Yeah, nice.
As an Alien fan, I highly recommend it. I mean, I think there's a lot of fan service, but I don't know that I see that as a negative thing. So
Usually it
I
never
enjoyed
is.
it a lot.
Unless you're Star Wars. They go way too into the fan.
But yeah, that's all I've been getting into.
How about you, Bearclaw?
I saw Alien Romulus again. Great movie. I also have been playing a video game, and we really got to dip our toe into some of these horror video games, and we might want to talk about a couple too. This one was called Still Wakes the Deep, and it takes place in the 1970s on a derelict oil rig, and huge Lovecraftian things start happening. Everything really goes sideways for our main character in the best of ways. It's a great survival horror game. You're not blasting your way through enemies. This is much more of a avoiding and trying to just find your way out of this awful situation. But there's just some real terrifying aspects of the game. Huge mutants running around yelling, "Help me! Why won't somebody help me?" And just some really awesome stuff. I highly recommend it for any Lovecraftian fan out there. Still Wakes the Deep was the game.
Oh, that sounds really cool, man.
Logan, what have you been up to?
Mostly just video games. I recently just got Madden 25, so really been playing that.
How is that? Is it?
It's Madden 24 is still my favorite,
So
but
it's basically a roster update.
it's basically just a roster update, and also because of the new like kickoff rule, it kind of sucks. So it's not insane, but like I must say, like just playing with the new roster is so much more of an improvement, especially for a lot of teams that I love. So like Chicago definitely got like a much needed update.
I wish they would go back to the 2K at some point because
I think they will.
and everything were so good. I don't know.
Still, I think college football was better. That's so much better of a game. Like
Yeah.
besides Madden 25, I'd much rather play college football.
Just give me the ability to make my own plays again.
Yeah.
That's really all I want.
Yeah, they give you, well, you still can, but it's a lot more like going through it where I'm like, oh my God, it takes way too long. We started watching a little bit of Scooby-Doo, which is pretty funny.
Yep. Yeah. Some Scooby
The
Doo.
original Scooby-Doo or the movie?
I mean, we watched one movie and then we watched a little bit of the newer kind of show. It's not newer, but it's like newish.
Yeah, it's
Velma?
not. It's not. No, not Velma. Yeah, it's like some of the
Not that
Casey
show.
Kasem's still playing the voice of Shaggy, so it's probably like 90s. I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was pretty good. I mean, I like me some Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I love Scooby Doo.
All these horror movies are basically Scooby-Doo,
Oh.
but with a little bit more gore.
Which one? Which episode of Scooby Doo was Hereditary?
The creepy pasta Scooby-Doo. We watched an episode of Scooby-Doo where they were hanging out with Simple Plan. That's a real thing that happens.
Bring back some of that nostalgia feel.
Don't play Simple Plan. Do not. Editor, please do not play Simple Plan.
Warp
please.
Tour.
I got my Vans out. Logan says Vans are dad shoes.
Okay, you're going to bring this up on the podcast? Okay, everyone listening, context clues. We were at a Bob's going to get shoes. The worst place to go get shoes, mind you. And he was like, "What about if you get some Vans?" And I was like, I said to him as a joke, but I believe in this, is that Vans are dad shoes.
So, as a joke that you believe in,
Yeah, so it's not a joke.
This
Well-
is not so much a joke as it is a
I didn't
statement.
really,
As it is a
I didn't
heartfelt
really
belief
like, I
from
kind of
Bob.
said it out of the moment, but as I was like thinking about it, I'm like, it kind of is. Like, I see a lot of dads rocking Vans. Like, not a lot of dads like rock any other shoes. Like, yeah, there's some New Balance and maybe some Adidas, but never like anything crazy. So yes.
This daddy is a fan of Vans.
Oh, God.
gotta be young again.
Is that it?
I mean, yeah.
Well, Logan kind of gave us a tease because this movie does have a very Scooby-Doo aspect.
It is very
to
much
it.
like Scooby-Doo.
No, Scooby Doo has way more form and has a story and a narrative.
Well, except for
Characters that I like.
Characters that I like. I know something about the characters.
Well, without any further ado,
really wedge into that one.
grab a beer, pull up a chair, hold on to your straitjacket tight, and let's dive into the madness. We watched Friday the 13th from 1980. It was written by Victor Miller and directed by Sean S. Cunningham. Now, Sean S. Cunningham was famously a producer on Last House on the Left alongside Wes Craven. So that's really kind of where he got his start and name from. He wanted to make a horror movie of his own. And then came the release of Halloween in 1978. The success of Halloween, it was like, boom, I got to do this. Kind of like The Burning as well. It really set these movies in motion.
Said, hey, we can turn $1 here.
Yes. Before they had a full script for this movie, Sean S. Cunningham took out an ad in Variety with Friday the 13th. He came up with this title, right? Friday the 13th.
He sold nothing. They had no script. He was selling the name.
But he sold the name, which is crazy because he did it for two reasons, right? Number one, he wanted to know if they would be sued for using Friday the 13th for a movie name. Number two, he wanted to get investors for this movie, and he did. Yeah. They called him, and he got a bunch of investors to come aboard for Friday the 13th.
The front end of this process was pretty well established. Like, he went out there, sold this concept.
He worked his ass off.
Yeah.
He was all in right from the jump. What's funny is there was another Friday the 13th movie that came out in the same year called Friday the 13th, The Orphan.
What?
Oh.
What was that one about?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. I just found it in my research, and apparently they paid them off on the side. So they, I don't know, were pretty much a nothing movie. If you've ever seen Friday the 13th, The Orphan, let us know.
Yeah,
because
why don't you email me at thepaddedroom@outlook.com and tell me if you've seen Friday the 13th Orphan and what that was about, and give me some info on it because I got nothing.
So Victor Miller, the writer, what he did was he was tasked with watching Halloween, and he went through it, and he picked out the parts that he thought were interesting.
Just not just Halloween though. Let's also take Hitchcock, Psycho, Carrie.
Yes, yeah, he pulled a lot of ideas for sure. But what I found interesting is he was basically looking as Halloween this research paper to write his script. Now, Friday the 13th also stars Kevin Bacon in one of his first roles.
Yeah.
Did you guys recognize him?
Yeah.
Only because you said it was Kevin Bacon.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't have recognized him otherwise?
I don't really know Kevin Bacon that well. I've seen him in a couple of things, but nothing insane.
Do you guys know who played the role of Bill in this movie?
Oh my God, there's another Bill.
Bill? Which one was Bill?
He was kind of the good guy that hung out. He played strip poker with the two girls.
I have here a Harry Crosby.
Yes.
I don't know who that is, though.
Have you heard of Bing Crosby?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's his son.
They said the guitar that he played was real when he was playing like Spanish guitar. That was really him.
That's cool. I found it interesting that famous
pretty good.
Bing Crosby, his son, is in this movie. It's pretty cool.
There's another character named Bill.
He wasn't Billy though in this. Now, Betsy Palmer also came aboard to play the role of Mrs. Voorhees. Now, she was kind of this
new car, is what I'm told.
Yeah, she was this older conservative TV star, and she was not interested in doing a horror film at all. And she wanted a new car, and they were like, "Hey, this script came."
She was interested in money
for a new car.
Right?
Who isn't?
She was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I guess right after the film, she did not want to be known for being Mrs. Voorhees. She wanted to really separate herself from the movie. But then years and years passed, and she really came around.
Needed money again.
And, well, she realized
she realized Freddy vs. Jason was coming, and she needed to get in on that.
She was like, you know what I've really been known for in my career? Mrs. Voorhees.
I was going to say, sooner or later, you just got to lean into it.
Now, they also brought back Tom Savini we know him from The Burning, which we just reviewed.
He did a much better job on this film than he did in The Burning, for sure.
This was before the burning.
Yeah, it was before the burning, but I'm just saying as far as our
our
reviews. Yeah.
chronology,
Sorry, I should
yes.
explain
No.
myself better.
No.
Yeah, he did the burning after this movie, but he was just fresh off of Dawn of the Dead, which he did in 78.
Okay.
So he was a big get for this movie. Now, this movie had a budget of $550,000. Do you guys know how
Wow.
much it grossed at the box office?
A lot more than I thought.
150.
Yeah, because of the investors that came aboard. Sean S. Cunningham brought them in.
Only 500. That's low even for this time frame, though.
Yeah.
I think that's like the lowest budget I think we've had in movies. we've covered.
Technically, yes. In our Halloween reviews that we did episode 1 on Halloween, 1978 had a lower budget. I think it was only 150,000.
Yeah, I don't know. So is the question how much is gross?
Yes, sir. Yep.
I think I'm gonna go because it did pretty like spectacularly well, right? 1980.
I'm not going to give you any clues.
I'm going.
Come on.
I'm going 20 million.
All right. Logan.
50.
Dan.
I'm gonna go middle ground. I'm gonna say 35.
Logan's the closest. It made $59.8 million.
Yeah, 50 cents.
Yeah, it was a pretty big success.
That's, I mean,
That's
for five,
for
I mean,
500.
You look at
Yeah.
the books. That's a pretty solid investment
Yeah,
monetarily.
that is.
This movie really changed things and opened them up and made kind of this new genre of horror movie. I know like Halloween and Black Christmas had come out, right? As sort of the quote unquote slasher, but this was like the slasher, and it really started that 80s trend. Famously though, Gene Siskel, you know Gene Siskel.
Yeah.
I hate to talk bad of the dead. He hated this movie with a passion. Hated it. He put Sean S. Cunningham's actual address out for his readers to write to him directly. And he tried to actually provide Betsy Palmer's real address. It was not her real address, for people to go after her directly for making this abomination of a film.
What a dickhead.
What a nutter.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're a critic, you're supposed to review these movies, right? And you're supposed to, even if you don't like something,
You're supposed to
Yeah.
remain
This is art.
unbiased.
Just because it's art that you don't like doesn't mean you should attack the creators of it.
Yeah, attack the art. Don't attack the creator.
Yeah. Well, he decided to do the old school version of doxing them.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
The earliest versions of it.
Yeah.
It was crazy when I heard that, man. Ugh. Now, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, Friday the 13th has a 66% critic score and a 60% audience score. So critics and audience are pretty copacetic here. Now, I want to start the discussion off because for me, this was always not one of my favorite movies, admittedly. I was a fan of the kind of middle Jason movies, the middle Friday the 13th movies, the what are known as the Tommy Jarvis trilogy are some of my favorite Friday the 13th. I'm a huge fan of kind of the campiness of Friday the 13th. You know, Jason is one of those horror icons that I think really spanned the 80s for a lot of people, and even into the early 90s too.
Yeah. The role he played in this movie was pretty, formative too. So.
Yeah.
Very significant.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I think they almost gave him too much screen time.
I
feel.
know. God.
that was one of those things I think that turned
That
me
guy's
off
got
of
a
this
life.
movie.
That guy's got a life. They
It's
need to...
yeah, because I didn't see this movie right to start. I didn't
Right,
watch them in
yeah.
chronological order. So then when I went back and watched this,
I'll tell you, as somebody who doesn't know what's coming next in any of the sequels or anything, watching this is the first Friday the 13th.
you know what? Now that I think about it, though,
was kind of disappointing.
I hear
Welcome to the party, pal.
I hear you, and I think
I feel like I showed up early to the party. That's what this movie feels like.
I almost think that's a cool way to see these movies. So I think it is, because I'm hopeful that as we go on in the series, and we pick some more of these movies, you'll appreciate what I appreciate.
You
in
would
some
think,
of the other ones.
you would think, but we're not.
I will say, a lot of this movie is just straight boring for me now.
So much exposition.
It's a lot. I do love the last half of this movie, or at least the ending of this movie. I think that's really good stuff. The gore effects are superb. I mean, they are really good, especially for 1980.
Yeah, finest.
Right. So I want to know what you guys think. And I want to start with Dan here because I want to save Bearclaw and Logan, who have never seen Friday the 13th, to the end. Dan, what are your thoughts on Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th is the horror franchise that is held closest to my heart. I grew up on this franchise. Nothing was better than being a kid watching the Friday the 13th marathons on a Friday the 13th evening, eating ice cream, sneaking coffee to try to stay up all night, and there was no school the next day. While grade school kids were dressing up as black cats and skeletons and vampires, I was a 9-year-old Jason Voorhees, hockey mask and all, staring down the other kids going, ch.
I remember you dressing up too when we were kids.
Yes.
Jason.
All good times. No thanks to this Jason Voorhees-less movie, though. This was always the most disappointing one for me because it tries to take itself seriously and offer a grounded slasher horror movie based on a revenge plot. I found it to be boring aside from a few cool gore spots and the audio production really doing a lot of the heavy lifting and building the suspense. Mm-hmm. As a kid, if this was on anywhere in my house, I was not in the same room if it was airing. As soon as I heard it was not the Jason one, I was out. And I'm not going to lie, feeling is still kind of there. I'm curious to hear, what Bearclaw and Logan's takes are. But that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think, a lot of what you said is very nostalgia for me because I feel very similar to you, Mr. Bearclaw. First watch. What are your overall thoughts on Friday the 13th?
First watch, Friday the 13th, the original one. After I finished the movie and understood kind of its place, I kind of felt like I had shown up early to the party. Like, I think that's it's almost
a good
like,
analogy.
Yes.
It's almost like they were just setting up the keg. Like, things hadn't gotten together. They needed some help moving some ice around. And things were going to be great later, but this was just kind of like before things had really started.
DJ isn't even there yet.
The DJ isn't there yet.
No.
It's just kind of those awkward, like, getting together or getting things together. It's interesting. And it's interesting how much just thievery this movie had as far as its sources go. I mean, it's just so clear when you look at things like where they took things from. And if they were trying to do a Halloween clone, this is like an abject failure. I mean, there's just so much in this movie that is so mysterious until the last 20 minutes that you don't know what's going on. You don't know why the killer is killing anybody. You don't know, coming from somebody who doesn't know what happens next or doesn't know, what the other Friday the 13th movies are. I was so lost. Like, who is this killer that's just coming around and killing people and why? And with the Shape or Michael Myers, those questions were answered. He was a lunatic. There was this whole thing. There was this whole reason why he was there. He's going back to his old neighborhood on Halloween night. He wears a mask because that's when he killed her. Like, there's rhyme and reason to what's happening, and there's no rhyme or reason. And there's no way anybody could discern by the end of the movie, it's Jason Voorhees' mom. Like, there's no opportunity for you to even understand that. Because, like, for me coming into it totally cold, I was just like, so it was an unsolvable mystery.
You know what? I want to ask you and Logan real quick before we get to Logan's thoughts. Were you both aware that this movie, and this is not a spoiler because it's 1980 it came out.
Yeah.
Were you both aware that Jason was not the killer, that it was his mom, Mrs. Voorhees?
I wasn't aware.
I was.
Yeah.
I was like, my whole thing was, by the end of the movie, I was like thinking like, Jason wasn't the killer. Sure would have been cool if he was.
Logan, I want to get your thoughts. Did you know that the mom was the killer because of Scream?
I have a confession to make.
Okay. Here we go.
I watched Friday the 13th during COVID.
Oh.
I did not watch Friday the 13th for the first time with you.
Betrayal.
Oh, okay.
I did a thing to try to confuse you, to make up certain things about Friday the 13th and to completely shit talk it during the viewing.
Oh.
And that I actually did know that the mom
He's scheming on me.
because I really like Friday the 13th. I really do.
What?
I actually
Colonel
like
Mustard.
what?
Colonel Mustard in the library with the pipe wrench.
I really like Friday the 13th for one reason only.
Why?
The mom.
Yeah.
The mom
likes Mommy
completely
Voorhees.
made... Because here's what I was going to say. My reason for liking this movie is because I originally didn't like the movie. I didn't like how they went through this whole exposition briefing into it. And then when I sat down with you, and I did a little thinking, because after watching it with you a little bit, I took some time and I really went into it, like thinking about it. And I was like, damn it, they had an actual good idea for this movie. Jason was never supposed to be the villain. And because we've already seen like the Friday the 13th, like we know about it, we're supposed to imagine that Jason is going to be the guy. It's a throw off, and I like it because it throws you off.
Oh, hold on. How is it a throw off though? We don't know who Jason is either till the end of the movie.
I'm saying for us going into it,
He's saying, like, as knowing that Jason is the killer in these Friday the 13th. It's actually a good point he's trying to make. Like, does that... Because for me, it did ruin my first watch of Friday the 13th, where I'm expecting Jason to be the killer, and it is the mom. Like, obviously, it didn't work the right way for me, right? But
I don't think it worked the right way for me
yeah,
either.
I mean, you going in cold, not knowing.
I was like real hyped to see some hockey mask action. I got to be honest with you.
Here's what I
You
think.
have to wait until part 3.
Yeah, part 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Here's what I think, right? And I've thought about this a little bit because I agree with Logan. After watching it this time, the mom, Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees, is so good.
because
It really
if you
is.
watch it back,
Yeah.
for me, watching during COVID, I remember everything that happened.
Yeah.
I remember the killing in the beginning, and I was like, okay, so it's Jason. But then watching this back, I was like, it makes sense. She's going after these people because she's a very Christian mother. That's what I see. Like, she's a Christian mother that basically lost her only child.
My sweet, innocent Jason. My only child.
Due to drowning because of, like, being...
Incompetence.
Yeah.
with the
And
counselors.
so, because of that, she went off the deep end and she started killing these people that were having sex and not worrying about the campers. They're more worrying about, other things.
Right.
So she goes after these people that are trying to start the camp up that killed her own child,
Right.
that are trying to restart this, and it's going to restart the process. So in her mind, she's thinking she's doing a good thing. She's saving other people's child.
Yeah.
So for her, she's going through a whole like moral complex here where she's like, I got to go through my own issues to try to like quote unquote save her son's soul,
I gotcha. What I want to ask you guys is based on this discussion. What would you think, right? How would it play out? Because my thoughts are too, like, they save all of the mystery to the end, right? And then the big reveal. But we have no real knowledge of what is going on. So I always thought that the twist doesn't really play out like a twist. And I heard in my research that Betsy Palmer went to Sean S. Cunningham and pleaded with him to put her as just a normal person throughout the movie that they run into, like doing
That would have made
things.
so much more sense. You
Yeah.
couldn't have. There's no way. And even me, I'm sitting there trying
I
to
like
guess
it.
the killer or guess how
Not
Jason
Scooby-Doo.
Jason is involved in any of this. But there's no. If you look at the facts of the movie, like, and that's one of my biggest criticisms of this movie is you needed to tighten up this movie and like you needed to make the characters different. Because one of the things about this movie is you can put any character in any spot at any time and they'd fit because they fit everywhere because they have no character, right?
Yeah, I got
that's
more on
the
that
And
point.
too.
like besides the mom who comes in at the last 30 minutes of the movie.
And she makes the movie better.
Like here's the thing too. And like look at Alice. Alice is supposed to be the final girl. What are the facts that we know about Alice?
Alice is the final girl just by default.
Yeah, by default, because she's the
Yes.
last one alive.
Yeah.
Well-
she has some relationship with the camp owner. She can draw. and she plays strip Monopoly. That's all we know about Alice.
That's all you need
We
to
don't know about her personality. We don't know about her. Maybe she's slightly a leadership type because he's kind of leaning on her to lead things.
You're gonna
But
really
other
want to
than
watch
that,
the
like,
next one.
like think of how much you know about Laurie Strode.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to get into this more, but
Yeah.
I think that with the Betsy Palmer playing Mrs. Voorhees, we should have got like the straight Mrs. Voorhees throughout this.
Yeah.
Dan, what do you think on that? Like,
Yeah, I agree, because at the end where Mrs. Voorhees just shows up, it's kind of like third act, and you're like narrowing down your suspect list, and you're like, oh, new character introduced in the third act. This must be the killer. This just screams, I am the killer.
right?
I like it though, because she's not hiding from it either. She kind of just gives up after like a couple of seconds, like talking about like her son Jason, and then like it gets into like this really cool monologue, and I really like
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I love that stuff. I do. I love when she's talking in that voice that's supposed to mimic Jason.
Oh yeah, mommy.
Killer, mommy. Killer.
And
That was another thing that I like to play with this movie is Mrs. Voorhees, like, she had like this psychotic break where she's kind of like disassociating, and she's throwing her voice like her son's voice, like this alternate identity? Or is there really a blood curse going on in Crystal Lake, and she's also possessed by her dead son?
Ooh, I never thought of that.
When I watched this for this episode, that was something that kind of popped into my head watching this.
Crazy Ralph is right.
Maybe.
There is a blood curse. And he was sent from God. He did warn everybody.
You're doomed if you stay here.
They could have walked away.
It's like the Harbinger.
He is the Harbinger.
He is the Harbinger.
That-
There's always a character.
God tried to save him.
That is a cool point. I like that idea a lot. That
yeah.
And it was funny too, because in an interview with Betsy Palmer, she talked about how she was trying to portray this psychopath when she's with Alice in those final scenes. And Sean S. Cunningham was like, no, you play it straight. You play it in control. You play it, like a mom. Like, that's not how you're playing this role, because you want to seem like everything's normal, but it's not normal.
Well, and like, think of how like she could have like shown up and been like friends with the camp counselors, or acted like a mom to them,
Yes.
or like there was so much room for her to have been like, oh, give me your laundry, kids, or something, and I'll go do it at my house. I don't know. There's so many ways to make her seem like an innocuous town person who just wants to help.
They had Steve. Steve was the only character that had a connection to her.
Yeah. And he's the only one who recognized her.
And
Yeah.
look at how much screen time
Steve
Steve
had.
got. And what does it pay out as?
Logan and me were talking about, we were watching, we were like, wait a minute, where's Steve? He's been gone the whole movie.
He went
on
to
the
town
whole
to get.
movie.
He went to town, fucked off
For
for
both
supplies.
viewings, I was like, where the hell is Steve?
You know what? I want to get back to another point that Bearclaw had made, and I didn't mean to skip over it, because I think this is a much larger discussion that we actually have this great kind of comparison, because we just did our review on The Cabin in the Woods. And The Cabin in the Woods talks a lot about these stereotypical quote unquote tropes and roles that these kids play. Bearclaw, I agree with you. These kids are all interchangeable. I couldn't tell you anything. One is the
They're just
same as the
bodies.
other.
Yeah.
Right.
And all of them do end up like,
well, yeah.
yeah.
I think eventually what the series does is it looks at this first one and it says, okay, we have pretty much cannon fodder as characters, right?
Yeah.
But it's not interesting because our killer is not interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the light bulb goes off, and they say, okay, we can work with this cannon fodder characters, but you need an interesting killer that's on screen, that's doing things, because if you don't have that, we're not invested in anything, in my opinion, in this movie. What are we invested in?
Yeah, the Mrs. Voorhees thing was a total flop, in my opinion.
Do you think that's like a generational, like a millennial thing, like that we necessarily need to like know the why behind a lot of things in order to like buy in?
I think it's
like,
just a psychological thing.
No, I don't think so, because it just doesn't make sense.
I know it does. I agree. It doesn't.
It's not about.
I'm just trying to like frame it as like, why did it? If we have all these gripes with it, right? Why the fuck did it make like $50 million? You know what I mean?
Suspenseful at any point towards it because people were just dying for a reason I didn't know. It could have been the plague. It could have been like, yes, they were getting sliced and stuff, but I mean, it was random acts of violence.
You know why this movie did so well? Because it's something that people can relate to. Like a lot of people went to camp.
Yeah,
Sure.
Some ideas
Getting
of
killed at a camp. Yeah.
well, no, but some ideas of camp are scary because you're out there without your parents.
You know what?
In a strange
You're
environment.
Right. You're right, because they do bring this up. One of those kids was faking drowning, just like Jason.
Mhm.
They were kind of playing off a couple of things that could happen at camp, like dying of.
Yeah, there's a very real danger element.
Yeah.
Even with camping, even though it's
Yeah.
safe and supervised, there's
Yeah.
still an element of danger because you're out in the nature.
Right. It's so
natural
remote
environment.
that I think it is a primal fear, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Steve. I'm scared of Steve. That mustache is
I just think too, like you were saying as well, with there's way too many scenes of these characters just doing nothing really
Yeah.
much.
We got
it's
Steve
like
at the diner.
things
What
are
did
just
what did we learn
happening
from that?
Right.
around them, and I don't know, there's no plot. There's no plot.
I got into that.
You
and
liked it? I mean, I've seen a lot of people say this is like a comfort movie, and maybe that is for some people.
I
where
just
they
enjoy it.
where they get into it, and it's out there with these characters. I guess my biggest.
I mean, it's nice. It's beautifully shot. The music
Yeah.
the music is pretty neat.
The music
There
is the
are
best part
things-
about
I
this
don't want to
movie.
be too hard on it because I think there is things to love. I think the movie in the last 30 minutes does pull up from a terminal nosedive and does become interesting. And when she gets her head chopped off and her hands are feeling for her head,
Yeah.
that's one of the,
The anguish.
coolest.
Such
the
a cool
anguish,
effect,
That's
though.
such a cool effect. There's so many cool effects.
And that goes in also to why this movie made money, I think, too, because a lot of people hadn't seen gore effects like this ever.
Well, and one of the reasons, and this is one of the topics I want to talk about, is thievery of ideas. Because this movie straight takes, Psycho,
Yeah.
come on, this is not, it just takes a slight reversal on Psycho.
every horror movie plays on other horror movies.
Okay, but this one, they were pretty explicit. Everybody who wrote this was pretty explicit that, we just took this from here and this from
I mean,
there.
yeah.
I think the problem I have is not that they took things from other horror movies, it's that they just didn't
Need to.
need to, and they didn't nail it.
Yeah, they
No.
definitely didn't nail it.
They didn't get to the Psycho level.
What you were saying about Alice as the final girl, right?
Right.
And they do the Psycho thing at the beginning where we're with Annie for a lot of the beginning.
Yeah.
There's a ton of exposition with Annie at the beginning.
That's my only big thing is they waited so long on the Annie kill where I'm like, is this supposed to be the main? When I first watched it, I was like, is this supposed to be the character we're supposed to be following? Because I'm like, okay, I'm into this. She's kind of
She would have been a great final.
That
would've been
was my
great.
point. That was
Yeah.
my point. She was the final girl. You don't have to do this Psycho twist at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't accomplish anything, in my opinion.
No.
I would have liked her because she would have been out of the group. She would have been the new girl. Everyone else would have been doing their own thing. And then at the end, she'd kind of be looking around for anybody and everyone's dead.
Yes.
And then she would be like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I work here at the camp.
Or better yet, she escapes. She actually escapes from the Jeep
Oh.
and she gets lost in the woods, but then she
Oh.
finds her way to the camp and shit's already been going down.
I like
yeah,
that idea.
maybe she's about to kill Alice, and then the other girl comes up with an axe and takes
I
off
like
her
that
head.
idea.
Yeah, no, there's a million ways you should rewrite this movie to be better.
I just feel like they ruined Annie.
But there's here's the thing though. You've got this thievery that's taking place, thievery of ideas, whatever. But from that, taking different ideas, smashing them together, maybe in reckless, wanton ways,
Yeah.
like this movie does. But it does give birth to Jason.
Right. Yeah.
So, right, we did straight steal, but it also, in stealing and in some ways in misinterpreting things,
Right.
and doing things the wrong way, we've created something newer and something that defined the horror thing. And I think that's an interesting thing about art and about thievery of art and about taking something that is totally outside of the genre and bringing it in. And how does that change things? How does that create creativity? How does that create innovation?
Right.
You know, especially in horror movies. And one of the things that I think this movie shows to me and what speaks to me about this movie and the creative process is that kind of primordial starting point.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, this is the movie that stemmed all the tropes that came after it and Cabin in the Woods used to be successful in itself.
It's like that, and this is going to be a seriously nerdy reference, but you know, Prometheus, when the guy drinks the black liquid and he falls into the waterfall and becomes all of life on planet Earth. That movie is this guy drinking the liquid. He's gonna dissolve and become, you know, and the threat of this is gonna be in a lot of different horror movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, another thing I liked about this movie, too, was they were awesome with the weapon choices.
Yeah.
Those stupid shears, man. Of course you're going to go for the machete. Who wouldn't go for the machete?
I mean, there were some cool kills in this. Very unique kills.
Very unique kills.
Like the bed and the archery scene. Call back to the archery scene from the beginning.
Yeah.
I did like that.
Yeah.
The only one I didn't like was, you know, Mike getting killed off screen. I didn't really like that because he was kind of the fool.
I didn't understand. Like, in a horror movie that's a slasher and you're going to kill somebody off screen.
You're going to kill the fool of all people?
So they killed him, right? But they did it in that sense of when they're having sex, his body is above them in the bunk. So it's like that juxtaposition of
there's that word.
It just goes to show although halfway through this movie, I felt like I wasn't seeing the complete movie, or there was some scene I had missed, and I went through and made sure my timestamps lined up. Like there was like a serious paranoia that like there was some like extra scenes or some exposition that explained even a modicum of what was going on because I was so lost.
There was. I stole it from you.
Yeah,
I liked. I agree with Logan. There was a lot of kills that were really cool and original that had never been done before. I liked. Yeah. There was some scenes too, like where was his name Mike?
I think it was Ned.
Ned,
the guy who dressed up as the Indian.
Yeah.
Ned.
That's Ned.
Yeah, Ned.
Ned. Okay. Yeah. See again.
Mike. Ned.
Well, Bill died by the archery.
We don't
know any of these guys' names, and I love it.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it really doesn't one matter. Of them could be any one of them. We could name them all.
They all die.
But I named them actually,
Ziggy, and they would all.
I like the scene where he sees somebody go in the cabin and he follows them.
Yep.
Like I like that scene. The other one I really like too is when they're in the bathhouse and I don't know her name, had sex, and Marcy. She goes in the bathroom. She fixes the sink.
We need the name.
Axe the head, and then the other girl goes in there later after the strip Monopoly game.
Yeah,
and you can see a hand from one of the curtains out in the background. I love that stuff. That's building tension and doom. Dan, what'd you like? Do you have things that you liked in this movie?
Yes. I think Tom Savini's work is, I think, the biggest takeaway from it. She kind of showed, like you had mentioned earlier, what practical special effects makeup, can do for the genre. And I think the 80s, it just ran wild after that. I love the music for the movie. I just love the theme. I love how they add the into the music itself. To me, like the audio and the effects for me are the best parts of this movie. That's really all I can say for it.
Yeah, I want to bring up the music because the music is iconic. It was done by Harry Manfredini, the famous.
You know what?
Hey, I got a question. Why doesn't the music play all the time when the killer's killing?
That's a good question because
it doesn't rain all the time.
Does anybody know that? Because like sometimes the music's playing, sometimes it's not.
Is it a chase element?
Well, they tried to do what they did with Jaws, right? Where Jaws has the music on screen when the killer or when the shark is not there. So it's supposed to take place of the killer, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's that same
Except
idea.
The killer's never there either.
I would actually like to hear, and thinking about this right now, the Jaws music, especially not that music, but the music when they're, like for instance, when they're trying to catch the shark and and there's the two guys on the dock and the dock's getting closer and you have that kind of score music that's going along. some of this score felt like Jaws, very similar. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. So originally I said, and I don't remember the music from the first watch, but when we were watching it, I was like, this kind of sounds like Danny Elfman. Like this, it's very like, it sounded like Danny Elfman, especially in the beginning when she's walking through town. Like I was like, that's some Home Alone type shit. Like,
Yeah, there
this
was
very like,
Yeah, there was kind of this score element to it. You're right.
I mean, it was very good, like very like childish wonder, kind of curiosity in the beginning. Like this entire town is kind of like a ghost town, and then like it kind of dips into like more like sinister kind of music, especially with the chase. Like it just goes from there.
The famous sound, the was Harry Manfredini taking Betsy Palmer when the camera goes up close to her mouth, and she's saying, "Kill her, mommy." He took the "k" and the "ma," and he put it in a echo machine.
Editor's note: it's a delay effect called an echoplex.
And it was like, and that's how they kind of came up with it. So it was almost like he found it by accident, sort of deal. But it's an iconic sound. You know, when you hear that, you know. Actually, you know Jason.
You know Jason is coming.
Except in this movie.
Surprise, not in this movie.
Mama Voorhees is coming.
I got to ask you guys. Here's a big one, right?
Okay.
All right.
A few reviews ago, we did a review on The Burning, which is very synonymous with Friday the 13th because they're kind of considered a little copycatish of each other. Plus with the Tom Savini effects. Which one did you guys like better, The Burning or Friday the 13th?
I still like Friday the 13th better.
Yeah, I still like Friday the 13th.
Even though I think The Burning, they captured camp culture, the camp culture better, and I think they did slightly better character development.
Yeah.
And like I actually cared about some of their characters versus I didn't really care about any of them.
Yeah.
But Tom Savini's work on Friday the 13th is so much more superior.
Yeah,
and
it's way better.
Take the atmosphere and the characters from The Burning and put it in Friday the 13th, and it'd be so much better.
Yeah.
Like, atmosphere is a big thing. I think that's the only thing it just lacks, is just that atmosphere.
I'm probably going to be very critical of this movie, but there is something special about Friday the 13th. And there is some X factor to it. Whether it be just how odd the ending is, maybe how quickly the ending becomes odd. Like, there's some X factor that makes this just a little bit more authentic, I feel like, than The Burning. The Burning felt to me very inauthentic. Let's copy as much as we can and just get this thing out the door. And I don't think it was intentional. Let me be clear about that. It was just more of something, the sum of its parts being greater, or the whole being greater than just the equal of its parts. And something about Friday the 13th kind of catches me, admittedly at the end of it, but there is something there that's a little bit more authentic in my opinion.
Yeah, actually, I think you're right. I think it's weird because these characters all feel like pretty normal characters. Like they're not cartoonish or over the top.
Painfully normal.
Yeah, and whereas The Burning, those characters are like so
they're animated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Very animated.
Yeah, and so it is kind of this weird comparison. I mean, I get it with obviously the camp setting and the killer.
At least these kids look like their age.
But I mean, you don't need, and I think this movie is where, and I agree with Kevin 100% that this is where they figured it out. Like, oh, if the killer's not interesting, the whole thing is, the whole thing needs to be reevaluated, because that's the thing. If you were to compare the killers in these two movies, the only reason this one, Friday the 13th, would win is just because of the exposition at the end and how great, and how Betsy Palmer, how great of a job she did at the end there.
It's the capturing.
And the killer in Friday has motive, whereas in The Burning, he's just like
he did get burned a lot.
Killing anybody who really.
But they didn't make that a true like revenge plot, like we talked about in our review. Like why
he's just
aimlessly kind of killing.
Yeah.
It seemed like he walked into his revenge. plot in The Burning.
Yeah, he did beat kids.
Well,
like,
yeah, I just think that it's one of those things where it's like this goes that proved that the killer is more important than the kids. Because
I hate to say it too, but I think some of the effect this movie had was because it was this middle-aged woman that's a killer.
yeah.
I don't think movie-going audiences really had ever seen a middle-aged woman as a killer sort of idea.
And no offense, but even in this movie, they made her very unformidable. She could very easily be fought. Like, if she didn't have the jump on you, I feel like she wasn't.
she did get up like pretty quickly after every hit.
Well, I think that goes into what kind of maybe works with this, though, too, because these characters also don't assume that a middle-aged woman is going to kill them. You know, they're like letting their guard down a little bit, and, you know, and maybe that's part of the allure too. It works. I don't know. Versus like, you know, this big killer that's coming after them and
Very unsuspecting.
yeah, right. I mean, a lot of this movie, it sucks because a lot of this movie I really like, but a lot of it's just boring. One of my examples of why this is boring, right?
Well, oh yeah.
We have a scene of strip Monopoly, okay? And
Awesome.
Yeah.
and I get the idea.
Take off your boot.
Like, okay, if you don't want to get naked, I understand that. But then don't play strip Monopoly and you're teasing a payoff that never comes.
Yeah.
Even more so, we're on this game of strip Monopoly for like 30 minutes. We're playing the game of Monopoly.
And what's
with
funny
them.
is the second the door cracks open, then she's like, "Yeah, I think I left my windows open."
Yeah, she was like, I'm losing my underwear next roll. I gotta get out of here.
They're like,
Yeah,
oh, we'll finish it
understandably
tomorrow.
so.
No.
Well, we're going to have to finish this game some other night. Just when it was getting interesting.
No! God, please, no! No!
Great, yeah.
No!
Great. It's a disappointment like everything else in this movie. No, well, it's just there's so much like that though. Like we follow Steve Christie as he goes to the diner. Why? We follow him on this whole
So
journey.
that we could
Why?
see
Him hit on a
Sandy's Riz game.
Well, what do I owe you?
Just a night on the town.
Ooh,
Yeah.
she
He
was,
was he was hitting on that.
Sandy, yeah.
on Sandy
Yeah.
there.
This is
She was
one of the-
into it.
And
She
that was
into
relevant.
She
it.
wanted
to
a
the
night
plot
on the
because-
town.
Even
because
that
she
cop
wanted a
wanted
night on the
some.
town.
This is a specific scene that Betsy Palmer had requested that Sean S. Cunningham put her in, just
Yeah.
as a little bit of, you know, hey, Mrs. Voorhees.
Did he honor that?
Yeah.
No,
I didn't think so.
he had his vision. It's his baby. And
his
I don't know
bitch.
what his vision was.
you know
though.
what? I'm interested to really cover Friday the 13th Part 2 because, like we talked
The
about,
gold standard of Friday the 13th movies, if you ask me.
oh, bold.
Oh.
And because this really was the beginning of the party. Let's get
Yeah.
into more of the other elements of the party.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, they're also going to be doing a new show called Crystal Lake from A24.
Really?
Ooh.
I heard about that, and there's been a lot of news about it.
They just apparently got a new showrunner who's the same guy
I
who's
always
doing
feel
Welcome
like
to
I
Deary.
hear more and more news about it, but I never hear anything besides.
like substantial.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's always like one of those shows where it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen, and then it never does. It's like the Game of Thrones spinoffs that never happen. Like it's just like, okay, that was gonna happen some point.
Here's what I'm worried about with this show is this seems to be more of a prequel type of idea of setting up the mom again. Do you want to see that, or are you
Might
like,
help with the original.
I think it could be. I think they have the opportunity to tell a very interesting story with that. Like really explore the Mrs. Voorhees character and even explore the character of Jason as a child.
Plus, it could be a younger version of the mom, and that could be like a cool kind of like.
But do I want to?
Yeah. I was gonna say, do we really want to do a deep dive in the lore of Jason? Like
Maybe. Well, they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
like what do we stand to gain here? Like
Nothing.
I wonder
yeah.
if that's some of the issues they're having with like their ideas for this show and what they want to do. Because to me,
I feel like since the Platinum Dunes Friday, that has been like one of the biggest issues with this franchise is creative control and rights issues and not being able to nail down a concrete idea for how they want to move the series forward.
I always feel like they have like a certain idea and they can never get past that. Like they can always like find different ways to like nail that down and then just completely go, okay, you know what? We're just going to make this like a completely different movie.
To me, I mean, the money is Jason, no?
Yeah.
Like hockey mask.
Yeah.
And all.
I mean, that's what the brand became.
Right.
You know, after this. Because, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you what the brand was before. What is it? Jason 3 is when he dons his hockey mask is what I think I've seen.
And apparently Sean S. Cunningham never envisioned this series. He never envisioned Jason as the killer. This was always...
I mean, that's kind of
vision.
clear if you look at what how the movie ended. Because, I mean, it really... Although they do say, oh, well, maybe he's still out there. And
Then he's still there.
Yeah,
Weird.
I want to get into this before we get into our hook, line, and stinker. What are your thoughts on the ending? Now, this has become a kind of cliche thing with a lot of the Friday the 13th movies is the pop-up at the end. But how did you like that? And then going into the hospital scene after.
The jump scare at the end is, to me, one of the greatest endings in a horror movie. That comes out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember, especially like seeing it when I was little, like that was the one scene out of all of them, watching all of them, that it would get me every time.
That's awesome.
Every time.
I love that. Logan, what about you? Did you like the
Yeah, I think I would have liked it better if it ended with a jump up and then go to black. Because then it would have been like a cool, like, okay, so because I didn't care enough about her to be like, okay, she's in the hospital.
I do like the shot of the lake at the end and the little water bubbles.
I like the music at the end,
the
like a very
surface.
like the music, just like how she was in the boat. Like it was kind of like a nod off to like, oh, we might be still out there, and then it's just like it's cool because then I watched the second one and now I know.
All right, Bearclaw, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, having not seen any of the other ones or knowing, I thought the ending was good. This movie saved all of its tricks for the last 20 minutes of the movie, and
I think the same thing.
you know, it's just it's there was so much time wasted, and if you just tighten it up a little bit, this could have been a great episode.
Or if they added more depth to what they were doing.
Yeah, if they did something with the time that they had, but yeah.
I always love that ending too. The jump scare, I think, is iconic where Jason pops out and grabs her on the canoe there. I wish they had the balls though to end it right there.
Yeah.
And make us as the viewer question, is that a dream? Like,
I mean, again, I do like the cut after all of that,
Mhm.
and they cut to the lake, and you
And
see the little bloop, bloop.
Yeah.
I like that idea too. I do.
I liked how they ended it. Even though we didn't really care about what happened to Alice, or at least I didn't. I still liked the whole supernatural element to it and kind of making it question.
All right, we're on to hook, line, and stinker. Now, our hook is our favorite kill of the movie. Our line is our favorite line or quote from the movie. And our stinker is something weird, funny, or awful that happens in the movie that makes it either better or worse. My hook, I'm going to go with Mrs. Voorhees beheaded. It's a pretty iconic kill. The gore effect is really good. I mean, seeing someone beheaded like that on screen is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love the hands, like you were saying.
Why?
My head. The gushing blood. I like the slow motion too. I think it was maybe a bit campy, but I think it works for that scene to just kind of make it feel more iconic, to be honest with you. My line is Mrs. Voorhees, and when she kind of goes between the Jason Kidd voice and
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Don't let her get away, Mommy. Don't let her live.
I won't, Jason. I won't.
I won't, Jason. I won't. My stinker is too many scenes with nothing happening. I just think a lot of it was boring
That truck
for me.
scene.
Yeah. Where at the beginning you're saying where he's talking to Annie for like the truckers talking to Annie for like 10 minutes.
I was
like,
I think
Jesus, shut up.
What is going on?
I think it's funny that they
Only
still
for Annie
show
to
that
die
truck like
instantly.
driving for like a couple like seconds. Like I'm like, why are we still seeing this truck? I don't care enough.
Were they trying to pad out this movie at all? Like the runtime?
I mean, I don't know how you couldn't make that argument with the first hour and a half of this movie. We watched somebody make a cup of coffee.
That's true. We saw somebody make a cup of coffee. We saw people play a Monopoly game.
They didn't have time to explain who the killer was, but you know,
Make a cup of
instant coffee. We made sure that got airtime.
We saw somebody play guitar.
Yeah.
But he was good at playing guitar.
A lot of generator scenes too. I don't think I had seen so many.
Which is
scenes.
kind of an interesting call out to a game that Dan and I play sometimes, Dead by Daylight,
Logan
where you
said
had
that.
to start the generator to put the lights on. So I mean, I enjoyed that aspect of it.
I also like that it's very much like the Friday the 13th game, where
Yeah.
like you have to like get the car
I haven't
started
played
up.
the 13th game.
I don't even think is it even available anymore? Just or did they discontinue it?
I don't remember. I just remember seeing a lot of people playing that. I used to have so much fun watching those. They were crazy.
Yeah.
I'd have so much fun playing that, especially being Jason.
All right, Dan, what do you have?
I have Hook, Marcy's death. This is my favorite kill for the gore effect. The axe to the head is the most brutal thing in the movie, in my opinion. Like, I know there's that decapitation scene, but I think the axe to the face looks better than the decapitation. Like, I don't know. I feel like the effect for the decapitation, like, it's not as messy.
Yeah, right.
I guess. I don't know.
This just looks brutal.
It looks real.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I don't know. I think that one's the most brutal one, so that's what I'm going with. Line, Crazy Ralph.
I'm a messenger of God. You're doomed if you stay here. This place is cursed. Cursed. It's got a death curse.
It's got a death curse.
Dude, can I ask real quick? Why the fuck was he in the closet?
I was just
Or
getting
the
ready to
pantry?
say, Ralph, my guy, how long were you hanging out in that pantry closet with the lights off?
His wife was very concerned about him.
Oh my god.
This dude had a wife.
Yeah, Ralph was actively maintaining a marriage. And you know what? Ralph is kind of the hero of this whole movie because Ralph is trying to tell them that you're going to die here. He might have known it was Mrs. Voorhees the whole time, but nobody would listen to Ralph. And Ralph was saying he had come to help save them, and he told them to get out of there, and he was doing the best he could do.
You know what I love about him too is like he just fucks right off out of the cabin and
They're just like, get out of here. He's
and
like,
he's just-
okay.
You know
frolics
what?
right out.
None of them are concerned either, though. They're just like, oh, Ralph.
We're
Crazy
not
old
even
guy.
gonna, like anybody. We're not going to have this
They're like-
discussion about why there's a strange man who's been hanging out in our
Yeah.
food
I
pantry
love
for
how
6
they're like,
hours.
oh, so that must be Ralph. Like,
Yeah, there's no concern. Like, no urgency.
He's just like, oh, no, he's just hides in the food pantry on occasion.
Oh my god. I do like Dan's theory on there actually being a curse, though. Like that makes like Ralph even more of a key
Oh,
component
yeah.
to
He's
that.
an actual harbinger.
Yeah.
And my stinker is Alice and Pamela Voorhees fight on the lake. I kind of thought it was terrible. The smooth killer for 75 minutes all of a sudden has no dexterity, agility, strength, coordination, or really any of the physical attributes required to execute some of the kills we previously saw, like an arrow through a cot, through the back of a neck, and out of Jack's throat, Bill's death. You're telling me Ned couldn't escape Pamela Voorhees?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I got you.
What do you got, Bearclaw?
All right. So for my hook, I have Steve Christie's death there because, you know, what the fuck were we doing with this character? And it ended the pain of his meaningless life. So I think that was a good hook. I obviously had that was kind of
I was like, wait a minute, is this your stinker or your hook? I'm confused.
No, that's my hook. Because, you know,
it's a mercy kill.
It was a mercy kill and ended the pain of his meaningless life where he drives to the diner and, you know,
But now him and Sandy can't be together ever.
Yeah, I know. I think it was kind of tragic for Sandy, but
I kind
you
of
know,
wish Pamela Voorhees stole his raincoat.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
in the, we'll see it. We'll see how it all ends up for Steve, but at least that was the end of it for him. And of course, the other ones, like Savini's work in this movie, like, and I would do an honorable mention probably to Alice's death there, or not, who was the cook there? That was pretty cool when the knife, the one who was in the Jeep, who got run, Annie. Yeah, honorable mention to Annie's death, because that was pretty gnarly, especially with the cut, and you could see the cut happen. That was pretty cool.
You know what? Real quick, Bearclaw, that reminds me. That would have played really well into what Dan was saying, too, about having Annie come back at the end of the movie and being the actual final girl. Mrs. Voorhees was also the cook in camp.
Yeah.
Huh.
That would have been kind of a cool
parallel.
Yeah, parallel.
That would have
right.
been well written. So they obviously didn't do that. This is what I thought was kind of cool.
The boy. Is he dead too?
Who?
The boy, Jason.
Jason?
In the lake. The one who attacked me. The one who pulled me underneath the water.
Ma'am, we didn't find any boy.
Then he's still there.
Then he's still there. Which, like, is very disjointed line, but I still thought, like, it kind of introduces Jason. It's almost like the start of the party.
Right.
That I was early to.
Yep.
It's like, oh, okay, the DJ's here. The music's playing now. I'm no longer, like, awkwardly standing in a corner with a ginger ale. Like,
right. Here comes the cool kids.
Here comes the cool kids. Yeah. That was my line. And then the stinker was, remember that scene where there was a snake?
Yes.
They actually killed a snake.
Yeah, they killed a snake for real.
I'm not cool with
really?
that. Yeah, that was a real snake that they killed. And it wasn't even, it was like some guy's pet, and they like...
It's a pet?
It was like a pet snake, and like they killed it on set because they thought it would look good. And, I don't think this is a PETA-friendly movie.
No,
but,
it's not. That was going to be my honorable mention for Stinker.
Yeah, but Stinker is they actually killed that snake, and it was just for entertainment, which I don't think animals should have to suffer for that.
It's
so.
fucked up that it's a pet.
Yeah, no, it was some
Like,
guy's
it's not
pet
just
snake.
some
It's not just some snake they found.
And Tom, and I guess they said Savini said he was just wanted to borrow it, and they borrowed it, and then they killed it.
Editor's note, Tom Savini has said he was not on set for that scene being filmed, and the reports that the snake was a pet are unconfirmed. Doesn't really let anybody off the hook, but just for accuracy's sake.
Wow, that's got it.
Listen, I don't like snakes, but I don't like.
I don't like anything getting
I don't like
killed for anything.
I don't like that he just was like, okay, I'm gonna borrow it, then I'm gonna kill it.
Yeah.
All right, Logan, how about you?
For me, my hook is the stab through the bed. It's iconic.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Kevin
it looks
Bacon.
so good. Yeah. Kevin Bacon deserved
They
that.
actually had a problem with this too when it was one of those one-shot deals because of they made the mold of his chest and everything.
Yeah.
And Savini was underneath the bed and he was going to pump the blood up through. But what ended up happening, I guess, is one of the casings had become loose. So blood just started squirting everywhere all over him underneath the bed. And he was like, oh, shit, none's going to go up through. So he actually put his mouth up to the pump and blew out that blood. So it makes such a cool effect because it looks like actual squirts. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's the best kill in this movie for me. For a line I have, unfortunately, we got to bring up the snake. I can't sleep if there's a snake in here.
Kill it.
You worry, I can't get it till it comes out.
Well, call him.
How do you call a snake?
How do you call it a snake?
Here, snaky.
That's the only thing I had. There's not a lot of dialogue that's like, oh yeah, this is
Some gripping dialogue
Yeah.
right there in itself.
like, there's nothing insane. Like, if I had to have anything, it'd be the mom's dialogue, because that just entire like monologue of her telling her about her son Jason is just so good. But like, that's what I had. For Stinker, I have my big thing, obviously, is just there's no character development.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really care about these characters.
Not even of the killer.
I care about the killer.
No, I would say the killer has.
Well, character development in the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Well, that's when the killer actually is revealed.
This isn't a Scooby-Doo episode. You're not going to get a whole mystery around the character, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. But my big thing is I don't like that we don't care about any of the characters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care about the guy Steve, and that's crazy because look at him.
Yeah, I know. Look at him. He looks he looks pretty cool, actually. I like the whole bandana
he
look
looks
and
like
jean
the
shorts.
70s man.
Got that stash.
Stash. Do we have any honorable mentions?
I have an honorable mention.
Yes, sir.
Bill's death.
Yes, I have that too listed.
Pamela Voorhees just said, fuck that guy in particular. He gets his throat cut. He gets an arrow in the eye, the neck, the chest, and the dick.
She really went off on him.
Like,
I love the way that he's found too.
and you know he didn't get those arrows shot at him while he was running.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point.
I wonder what she had against Bill. He didn't really none of them really did anything. I mean,
she hated his guitar playing.
They hated her.
I guess she didn't love White Christmas.
She is crazy. Wow. I gotta say, because we gotta clear it up a little bit. The reason why she killed all these counselors is because they were counselors. There's not she's not going after the people that killed Jason because she didn't know who was working there, at the time of, Jason being there. She probably didn't know everyone that was there. She just is going after anyone that's a counselor.
We're talking 10 counselors. She didn't know who was responsible.
Well, didn't
There's
she?
10
all
counselors and 50 kids.
Fucking all of them.
Is the size
She's
of
just
the
going
camp.
after-
And you're telling me she didn't know who they were when she was working as the
But
cook?
especially Bill. Fuck that
But
Bill.
especially Bill.
At the beginning of the movie,
deserves
though, she does kill those counselors, a year after his death,
Yeah.
right? So maybe they were responsible? I don't know.
Perhaps. I don't know.
I'm guessing what happened is it was probably at the end of the camp. So it didn't really have too much. And then she was during that year, she completely went off the deep end. And then it took her a year to kind of go into I got to kill these kids,
I gotta say,
them kids.
I don't have the line written down, but I do like the only real dialogue where I thought there was a little heart to what they were talking about is when the police officer shows up, who can clearly not ride a motorcycle, by the way.
Yeah.
He almost eats shit. But he's
All these people drive so fast.
yeah, they do. I mean, country roads, I guess, right? But he's interrogating them, asking if they've been smoking weed.
Would you just get off a spaceship or something? Colombian gold, man. Grass, hash, the weed. Dig it?
Hey, what's he talking about?
He's like, oh, the wacky
the groovy stuff, man.
What the hell? I don't know. I thought that was okay for
He was trying to entrap them.
But I like
Clever ruse.
I like some of that though. Give us more just fun too. They really seem like they're having fun at camp. I don't know.
Fun. They were put to work 2 seconds
You're right,
after.
right.
There were a bunch of nerds
Gotta get
that
to
were
work.
all, they're teenagers.
We're on to our final rating.
They're gonna rate the movie. What will they rate the movie? The killer is great, the victim sucks, the survivor is in between. What was that?
Now, our final rating system is Killer, which is our highest rating. It's awesome. We highly recommend this movie. Survivor, which is our middle tier. It was a good movie. We would probably recommend and has some rewatchability. Victim is We Were All the Victim. It is the lowest rating. It is a bad movie. We do not recommend, and it has no rewatchability. For me, even though I've talked a lot on this negatively, I do think that this is a Survivor for me. The last half, yes, is so, or not even the last half, I guess the last 30 minutes is really good. Mrs. Voorhees is great. I love all those scenes. Her dialogue is great. I do like her being beheaded. I like the scene of Jason jumping out. I thought that was all really cool stuff. I like the way this movie was shot because there is something really cool about it with the camp, and it was shot in an actual Boy Scout camp in New Jersey. It feels like that cool remote environment. And I love the scenes when it's raining and they're wearing their raincoats and you have those pops of yellow and the darkness. I thought that was really cool. The kills are so good. I mean, you can remember the kills. Even Bill's kill, that we don't really see is so cool to watch on screen. And I can think about in 1980, whoa, this must have been, revolutionary. And Bearclaw was saying, this is the start of the party. This is not only for the Jason series, but this is the start of the party for horror, because if you want to be honest or not, Jason Voorhees really helped horror throughout the 80s. He became an icon. You know, I love Michael Myers. I love Halloween, but Halloween was not around for a majority of the 80s. And this movie really set the standard for what the slasher was to become. So I think you have to give it credit for that. Yes, there's a lot of boring scenes in this. Yes, there's, you know, characters that are just fodder and I can't get behind. But overall, I think it is a movie that is iconic in a way and it will stand the test of time because of the concepts it introduces in horror. Dan, how about you?
I'm going to give Friday the 13th Survivor. The original Friday the 13th, to me, is the antithesis of what the original Halloween is to its franchise. It doesn't feel like it's essential viewing to understand the rest of the chapters in the franchise. Part 2 picks up with the last 15 minutes of Part 1, which are the most critical for advancing the story. The kids in this movie are vanilla compared to other slasher movies we've covered. The Burning did a better job of humanizing their characters in a camp setting. Black Christmas did a great job of capturing young people in a college setting in the 70s. None of these characters have any charisma. Even our final girl, Alice, she's kind of the final girl just because someone had to be the final victim. All that criticism aside, though, like I cannot deny that it's a classic slasher and really helped move the genre of horror forward throughout the 80s and what could be done with a low budget and some fake blood and awesome practical effects. Again, to me, the hallmark of this movie is, as Kevin mentioned, all of the kills and Tom Savini's special effect work was the blueprint for everything going forward. Bearclaw, what do you got?
Initially, I struggled with this one a lot. I initially had this in the victim rating, but I decided after thinking it through, thinking about the last 30 minutes of the movie and thinking about where this movie's place is in the creative process. And it's very much the primordial soup from which other things are born. And it's very much taking, all the thievery, just taking things, throwing them together and seeing what sticks. But out of that, something new comes about. And for that reason, I decided it's just weird enough, it's just odd enough at the end for it to go to Survivor. And because it is significant in that it is the start, the primordial soup. I think on its own, I don't know if it could be a Survivor, but we cannot deny the context of this movie. So I think, with that being said, I think we'll go Survivor.
Logan.
I would say it, for me, because of both points from the sides of me, Dan and Bearclaw, they kind of bring up this kind of thinking for me where I kind of stand, and where I stand is just beyond that. Like, I feel like this movie is a perfect rendition of like horror movies, but also kind of has those, like, there's a lot of horror movies that kind of fail at kind of marking down like everything you need. You need characters, you need the atmosphere, you need a killer's motives, and you need to have good kills. Now, this movie has a lot of good for it,
Right.
The music, the kills, and the perfect last 20 minutes of this movie make the movie some, like, better. It's really good. Like, I enjoyed watching it. Yes, there was a lot of exposition. Yeah, there was some, like, dragging scenes, but at the end of the day, I really liked it. It's not a killer, but it's definitely like, it's up there, but I would have to say like almost a killer, but it's Survivor.
Strong Survivor.
Strong Survivor, yeah.
I can't believe you pulled the wool over my eyes. I was almost thinking he was heading into this with a victim rating.
Yeah.
I know, I tricked you because I knew I knew he wasn't going to like it. I knew Bearclaw wasn't going to like it. I knew Dan may or may not like it. And I knew you probably would not like it. So I was like, let me
I'm real
try.
curious to see where Nathan comes down on this one.
Yeah,
so
so
let's find out.
Nathan, our producer, also wanted to give his rating on Friday the 13th, and he said, I've never been a huge fan of Friday the 13th, and frankly, this isn't the best movie in the franchise. I'll give it a Survivor because of its importance to the slasher genre, but I honestly found myself bored a lot during this rewatch. He also has an addendum. A movie should not introduce a game of strip Monopoly and then not follow through on the promise that it makes.
Show us some boobs.
I
was gonna say, for an exploitation or kind of like an exploitation film that this was supposed to be, it was very unexploitative.
I love how that was a comment that we brought up in the recording, and then you read that later, and it's like Nathan had the same, without even talking to us,
because he knows it's true. You don't play a game of strip Monopoly and have no one else. It's kind of like that episode of Friends where they play that strip Monopoly game, and then like the only person that takes off their clothing is Joey.
Is
like,
strip
screw
Monopoly
you.
like a thing? I feel like Monopoly is not the game to play that to.
Well,
It's strip.
I think you
Isn't
can
poker
play
usually?
Well, yeah, you can
strip
play strip
poker.
poker, but it's just I don't know, man. Though
It seems like less setup for the poker.
get a lot done.
Monopoly's the
with
only
deck
thing they
cards.
had. I don't think they have poker just laying around. It's a camp.
Oh man. Well, we also asked you, our audience, what your thoughts were on Friday the 13th. So let's check our Instagram, and that's at mouths.of.madness. And we have a comment from Thrift Store Archaeologist. Classic camp horror. I like it as a standalone more than a kickoff for the Jason movies too. Oh, that's kind of an interesting way to look at it as a kind of standalone. Amityville Amigos. So I, Tommy, didn't watch this until I was an adult. Therefore, Scream spoiled this movie for me. I definitely didn't care though, because at the age of 8, when Scream came out, I had no interest in Friday the 13th. LOL. Oh, yeah, we talked about Scream kind of giving away the ending for this movie.
It's been so many years since I've seen Scream that it didn't ruin it for me because I didn't remember.
I forgot about that until you brought it up the other day when we were done watching the second viewing. I'm like, oh yeah, they did kind of say that.
Yeah. Daycray.black. It is one of the inspirations for my next horror novella titled Afterlife, The Campground. Oh, I like that. Another one from Thrift Store Archaeologist. Camp classic horror for sure. I like the slow build, and Betsy Palmer brings such an interesting character to the table. I wish there would have been more build behind the Voorhees lore before Jason arrived in part 2. Yeah. BJ Mambo. Hell yeah. Fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. Fire it up.
Fire it up. Fire it up. No.
I love it. Skullface Edit. I think it's the scariest out of all of them. Whoa.
Hasn't seen
statement.
Hereditary.
No, out of the Friday the 13th. I think they mean. Maybe it is the scariest movie they think. I don't know.
Out of all the Friday the 13th, we're going to have to find out.
Yeah.
Let me know what the scariest movie is at the padded room at outlook.com.
Ooh, right to Bearclaw. Mad Blood Matt. The original, to me, is the scariest in the franchise. Wow, another one. It maintains that late 70s aesthetic at the best summer camp in the franchise. Savini gives us fun kills, and Pamela Voorhees to this day is still one of the greatest villains in horror history. The coziness of this movie is incredible and part of why I think it's an all-timer. James Shannon Morant. The original is my favorite. They take more time with the characters. Love the whole who-dunnit. But Mrs. Voorhees being the killer was good, but you can't call it a twist because we don't see her throughout the whole movie. Most who-dunnit, we see all the characters and suspect who it is, but other than that, great slasher movie with a top 5 jump scare at the end.
Yeah, I agree with this point.
Yeah. X Snowflake 07X. December 13th, 2024 is on a Friday in 114 days. And there is a Friday the 13th in September as well.
Uh-oh.
Horror savvy. Even though it lacks adult Jason, it's my favorite Friday the 13th flick. As much as I love Jason as a character, the rest don't hit this level of quality. They're fun as hell, but they never took themselves as seriously. Dissect that film. We're actually recording our episode on it this weekend. Short answer. It's the start of a wild franchise that gave us a wild twist and creative kills. It created a blueprint to one of the most iconic franchises in horror. Melanie _ St. George. Love it. Here's one she loves. Yeah, Melanie. Watch it every time there's a Friday the 13th. And I want to end on a comment from friend of the podcast, Modern Monstrous. It was my favorite out of the 12. I think because it was so different villain-wise. People who saw the later movies first would have been expecting Jason, not Pamela. And even for the first time, I think it would have been a surprise, especially since this was coming off the heels of Halloween and the male villain. And I completely disagree that Pamela being the villain is a cheap twist, because if you're paying attention to the way people react to the villain before we know it's her, it just feels off. It doesn't feel like the way you'd react to a 6'5" man picking you up on the side of the road or approaching you in the dead of the night. Bearclaw knows this because I talk about it in my book, but as much as you still have that kind of stereotypes, there is not true final girl if you're going based off Laurie Strode or the definition that Carol Clover has. For me, the true final girl would have been Alice in the beginning. I think she means Annie.
Yeah.
We gotta find out if Annie's
about that,
okay.
because Annie would have been a better final girl.
I do like how we're all kind of just hitting either all of our the high points and all the low points of the movie all at once.
Because I think we all know.
Yeah, I think this one has something for everyone, and we kind of all see what it is. And, I think at the end of the day, we appreciate this film. I don't think it's a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination.
Just weird enough.
Yeah.
Just weird enough. Just it saves itself at the end. Photo finish.
Bearclaw, this is number 3 for you for Survivors.
I know. It certainly doesn't merit a killer, but it certainly doesn't merit I just don't think there's it's just that hair difference between a victim.
Well, that's awesome. And we really appreciate all your comments. I think it's great that y'all write in because, like Dan's saying, this is a horror community, and we really like to hear what everyone has to say on these movies. I think it's cool. And even if you disagree with us, let us know. I think there is points on either side, and it's cool to watch these movies and have these discussions, I think, because everyone has something they like and everyone has something they don't like. But that does it for our review on Friday the 13th and wraps up our Summer of Madness Tour 2024. Thank you all for spending your summer diving into the madness. But we'll be back again soon with another episode, and it's going to be Bearclaw's pick, In a Violent Nature. But until then, back to the padded room with you. Hey, all right, well, I don't know about this camp idea.
I don't know. Things haven't been working out so hot.
No.
I can't get these fucking kids to stop eating mushrooms.
Dude, I'm so over summer, man. Let's just... It's over. Let's head back to the Dungeon of Doom.
Let's go back to the Dungeon of Doom. This has been...
Wait a minute. Did you hear that? What is that? Oh my God, no.
No, I'm
it's a Jason.
Run.
Oh, my sweet, innocent Jason. My only child.
Oh wait, no. It's just Mrs. Voorhees. Somebody.
Would you like some sherry, Mrs. Voorhees?
Oh God. Well, I guess.
All right.
This was the way to end the summer.
Yeah. What a wet fart. All right.
Logan, give her a pubic wallet.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
But until then, fuck, I can't talk, man. But listen.